Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump is vowing to remove the homeless from Washington, D.C., and he's promising to stop violent crime in that city. Today's announcement comes despite recent stats showing violent crime in the city is at actually a 30-year low. Even the city's mayor says there is no spike in crime. Trump announced his plan yesterday on social media, and just last hour, he delivered the message in person.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
CBC's Cameron McIntosh is in Washington, joining me live. Cam, what more can you tell us about Trump's plan and how he intends to accomplish it?
Well, as you just heard there, the president is calling this Liberation Day in D.C. Think about this, the president of the United States taking control, not just the local police, but also authorizing the use of National Guard here and perhaps active military units here in the national capital to deal with what he calls a public safety emergency. The president claiming that crime is out of control here in the District of Columbia. Now, there are stats that refute that from the Department of Justice and from the Metropolitan Police here in D.C., which both indicate that violent crime and crime in general has been trending downwards here in D.C. for the last 30 years, including last year over this year. However, the president has long, for many years, seen crime as a winning issue for himself. It plays very well with his base. It plays very well with his supporters. D.C. offers a unique opportunity. There's no state government here. The District of Columbia falls under what's called the Home Rule Act. It is really a purview of Congress. Yes, there is a mayor and council here, but under that act, there is a provision in there where the president can take control of the police in a time of emergency. That is what's being done here. Again, as I say, people argue over the stats here. The White House earlier today put out a release claiming that Washington is in the top 20% of most violent cities in the world. Here now is more from President Trump.
The murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years.
Again, many here, including local law enforcement, taking issue with the president's numbers. This is part of what the president is calling a larger safety and beautification initiative for D.C., where he says the federal government will also oversee improvements to the city to basically clean it up, make it look better. One of the aspects of that also, the president today has told homeless people to leave the city.
Only been a short time now that Donald Trump has left the podium and stopped talking about his plan, but has there been any reaction to the plan so far?
Yeah, and certainly it's definitely falling down partisan lines. Of course, for Republicans, crime, as I'd mentioned before, it's a big issue. It's a popular issue for them. The Democratic Mayor, Muriel Bowers, she's taking issue with the president's numbers. Up until now, it seemed like there was a fairly decent relationship between City Hall here, basically, and the White House. This is throwing a wrench into that, certainly. She, along with the Metropolitan Police here, pointing to numbers that crime is indeed trending down from their perspective. So we're seeing that kind of mix here. Again, though, for the president, this is, like I say, this is an issue that he's really tried to hit over the last few years. Also saying that they'll test this out in D.C. and that similar initiatives could also happen in places like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. Of course, President Trump put the National Guard on the streets of Los Angeles earlier this year to deal with protests over the actions of ICE. But again, the stark image coming out of Washington is the notion that the President of the United States taking control of policing here, using the National Guard, and perhaps using the military on the streets of the national capital to enforce laws.
CBC's Cameron McIntosh in Washington. Thank you.